Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Chapter 10. So at the beginning of this chapter, we have a new character introduced. What is he like? So let's see. One day, Hezekiah asked off from work to go off with the ball team. Janie told him not to hurry back. She would close up the store herself this once. He cautioned her about the catches on the windows and the doors and swaggered off to Winter Park. Business was dull all day because numbers of people had gone to the game. She decided to close early because it was hardly worth the trouble of keeping open on an afternoon like this. She had set 6 o'clock as her limit. At 5:30, a tall man came into the place. Janie was leaning on the counter, making aimless pencil marks on a piece of wrapping paper. She knew she didn't know his name, but he looked familiar. "Good evening, Miss Starks," he said with a sly grin, as if they had a good joke together. She was in favor of the story that was making him laugh before she had even heard it. "Good evening," she answered pleasantly. You got all the advantages, 'cause I don't know your name." "People wouldn't know me like they would know you." "Ah, guess standing in a store do make a person get to be known in a vicinity. Look like I seen you somewhere." "Oh, I don't live no further than Orlando. I'm easy to see on Church Street most any day or night. You got any smoking tobacco?" She opened the glass case. "What kind?" "Camels." She handed over the cigarettes and took the money. He broke the pack and thrust one between his full purple lips. "You got a little piece of fire over there, lady?" They both laughed, and she handed him 2 kitchen matches out of a box for that purpose. It was time for him to go, but he didn't. He leaned on the counter with one elbow and cold-cocked her a look. Why ain't you at the ball game, too? Everybody else is there." "Well, I see someone else beside me ain't there. I just sold some cigarettes." They laughed again. "That's 'cause I'm dumb. I got the things all mixed up. I thought the game was going to be out at Hungerford, so I got up to ride out there where this road turns off to Dixie Highway and walked over here, and then I find out the game is in Winter Park." That was funny to both of them, too. "So what you going to do now? All the cars in Eatonville is gone." How about playing you some checkers? You looks hard to beat." "I is, 'cause I can't play a lick." "You don't cherish the game, then?" "Yes, I do, and then again, don't know whether I do or not, 'cause nobody ain't never showed me how." "This is the last day for that excuse. You got a board around here?" "Yes, indeed. The men folks treasure the game around here. I just ain't never learned how." So who is this new character, and what is he like? So our new character, he's really good-natured. He smiles and laughs a lot and tells stories. And he tells a story about how he intended to go to the ball game with the rest of the people, but he got confused about the location and went to the wrong place, and now he's stuck in Eatonville. And then he challenges Janie to a game of checkers and offers to teach her when she says she doesn't know how. So let's see how this goes. He set it up and began to show her, and she found herself glowing inside. Somebody wanted her to play. Somebody thought it natural for her to play. That was even nice. She looked him over and got little thrills from every one of his good points. Those full lazy eyes with the lashes curling sharply away like drawn scimitars. Scimitars? The lean over padded shoulders and narrow waist. Even nice. He was jumping her king! She screamed in protest against losing the king she had just had such a hard time acquiring. Before she knew it, she had grabbed his hand to stop him. He struggled gallantly to free himself. That is, he struggled, but not hard enough to wrench a lady's fingers. "I got a right to take it. You left it right in my way." "Yeah, but I was looking off when you went and stuck your man right up next to mine. No fair." "You ain't supposed to look off, Miss Starks. It's the biggest part of the game to watch out. Leave my hand go." "No, sir, not my king. You can take another one, but not that one." They scrambled and upset the board and laughed at that. "Anyhow, it's time for a Coca-Cola," he said. "I'll come teach you some more another time." "It's all right to come teach me, but don't come to cheat me." "You can't beat a woman. They just don't stand for it. But I'll come teach you again. You're going to be a good player, too, after a while." "You reckon so?" "Jody used to tell me I never would learn. It was too heavy for my brains." Folks is playing it with sense, and folks is playing it without. But you got good meat on your head. You'll learn. Have a cool drink on me." "Oh, all right, thank you. Got plenty cold ones today. Nobody ain't been here to buy none. All gone off to the game." So what does Janie think about this new character that she's talking with in this scene? So it makes her happy that he's including her. The fact that he wants to play checkers with her and teaches her how to play makes her really happy. She also likes the way he looks. It describes her kind of looking at him and getting thrills by the details that she sees and kind of his physique. And then Janie also gets personal with him really quickly, where she brings up how Jody used to call her stupid and say that she couldn't learn things. And this new character says that she's actually not stupid, that she seems plenty smart, and she's going to learn checkers and be really good at it. And so Janie's really hitting it off with this new character where they're getting along really, really well. So on this page, pay attention to who is this new character. We're going to learn a little bit more about him. So let's pick up. You ought to be at the next game. Ain't no use in you staying here if everybody else is gone. You don't buy from yourself, do ya? You crazy thing, course I don't, but I'm worried about you a little. How come? Afraid I ain't gonna pay for these drinks? Oh no. How you gonna get back home? I'll wait around here for a car. If none don't come, I got good leather shoes. Ain't but 7 miles nohow. I could walk that in no time, easy. If it was me, I'd wait on a train. 7 miles is kind of a long walk. It would be for you, 'cause you ain't used to it. But I've seen women walk further than that. You could too if you had to do it. Maybe so, but I'll ride the train long as I got a railroad fare. I don't need no pocket full of money to ride a train like a woman. When I take up the notion, I rides anyhow, money or no money. Now ain't you something, you never did tell me what your name was. I sure didn't. Wasn't expecting for it to be needed. The name my mama give me is Virgil Woods. They call me Tea Cake for short. Tea Cake? So you sweet as all that? She laughed, and he gave her a little cut-eyed look to get her meaning. I may be guilty. You better try me and see. She did something halfway between a laugh and a frown, and he set his hat on straight. Believe me, I done cut a hog, so I guess I better catch air. He made an elaborate act of tipping the door stealthily, then looked back at her with an irresistible grin on his face. Janie burst out laughing in spite of herself. You crazy thing. So who is this new character? He finally introduces himself as Virgil Woods, but he goes by Tea Cake, which is what he'll be called for the rest of the novel. So let's learn a little more bit about him. So he turned and threw his hat at her feet. If she don't throw it at me, I'll take a chance and coming on back, he announced, making gestures to indicate he was hidden behind a post. She picked up the hat and threw it after him with a laugh. Even if she had a brick, she couldn't hurt you with it, he said to an invisible companion. The lady can't throw. He gestured to his companion, stepped out from behind the imaginary lamppost, set his coat and his hat, and strolled back to where Janie was, as if he had just come into the store. Evening, Miss Starks. Could you let me have a pound of knuckle pudding till Saturday? I'm sure to pay you then. You needs 10 pounds, Mr. Tea Cake. I'll let you have all I got, and you needn't bother about paying it back. They joked and went on till the people began to come in. Then he took a seat and made talk and laughter with the rest until closing time. When everyone else had left, he said, I reckon I done overlaid my leaving time, but I figured you needed somebody to help you shut up the place. Since nobody ain't around here, maybe I can get the job. Thank you, Mr. Tea Cake. It's kind of straining for me. Who ever heard of a tea cake being called Mr.? If you want to be real high-toned and call me Mr. Wood, that's the way you feel about it. If you wants to be a little friendly and call me Tea Cake, that would be really nice. He was closing and bolting windows all the time he talked. All right then, thank you, Tea Cake. How's that? Just like a little girl with her Easter dress on, even nice. He locked the door and shook it to be sure, and handed her the key. Come on now. I'll see you to the other door and get on down to Dixie. Janie was halfway down the palm-lined walk before she had a thought for her safety. Maybe the strange man was up to something, but it was no use to show her fear there in the darkness between the house and the store. He had hold of her arm, too. Then in a moment, it was gone. Tea Cake wasn't strange. Seemed as if she had known him all her life. Look how she had been able to talk with him right off. He tipped his hat at the door and was off with the briefest good night. So she sat on the porch and watched the moon rise. Soon its amber fluid was drenching the earth and quenching the thirst of the day. So what is foreshadowed symbolically at the end of the chapter in this very last paragraph right here? Let's take a look at it. So At the end of the chapter, Tea Cake walks Janie home, and for a moment she's scared because she realizes that she's walking in the dark with a stranger. However, then she feels like she's known Tea Cake for her whole life. And then we move into the moon symbol. So essentially what's created is it says that she watches the moon rise, and its amber fluid quenches the thirst of the day. So what does that mean? So the moon symbolizes relief, where the amber fluid is kind of like drinking like lemonade or like a delicious tea that makes you feel better. And the thirst of the day is Janie's sadness. So after Jody died, she's been kind of living the way that she wants to, but she can't achieve everything that she wants. She feels a little stuck, and there's a lot of people who have expectations of her, and she has to pretend to be certain ways. And so Tea Cake is this new person who she can completely be herself with, and this creates a relief for her. So the moonrise symbolizes relief, and it quenches the thirst of the day, which is Janie's sadness. And so the end of this chapter ends really happily, where it has this really upbeat, hopeful tone that the Tea Cake character brings to the book and to Janie's life. All right, well, let's see what happens in the next chapter. See you there.